A few quick minutes to have a chat for a podcast.
Sure.
Yeah? What was your name?
Bridget.
Bridget. Rin.
Hi, Rin.
Lovely to meet you.
Likewise.
How are you doing today?
Really well, thank you. I mean, it's a gorgeous morning. Hard
It
not
is.
to be feeling pretty jubilant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Where are you off to?
I'm going to a conference at the Collins Place. I've just been at St Vincent's in the mental health ward.
Beautiful. I'd love to know, so I might just move away from where that a blower is.
Yeah.
Is there something that you feel you've been working on in your life that's shaped the person that you are today? An idea that you've had maybe throughout your life?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I work in mental health. I've worked in mental health for 40 years.
Wow.
And I believe that people have capacity to grow through trauma and terrible things that happen. So I've worked with that assumption all my career. Even though, sometimes it takes a long time for people to find themselves after their wheels have fallen off. It's absolutely possible. So yeah, that's my core, belief on behalf of people. I hold hope. Yeah.
Love that. Come closer this way, sorry, so we step out of there. It's interesting because actually the podcast is called The Hope Initiative.
No, you're killing me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's ridiculous. What a nice thing.
Yeah.
Oh, what a great podcast.
Thank you. I would love to know for you what made you want to get into mental health and helping people with that 40 years ago, you said.
Yeah, when I was in my 20s. I think that I used to be a kid mucking around with, I worked in the CBD and I would be on public transport and see people that were obviously on hard times, and I would think, I'm not finding that person, scary, like some people. I'm really curious about what's happening for them and what could make the difference, So I was just really struck by that really basic thing of humanity when things get tough as a young person, and I thought, I could get into that.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, thank you.
What do you think has changed over the years, 40 years?
Yeah.
I'm 30 myself.
Yeah.
And I feel like even in my lifetime, a lot has changed around the conversation of mental health.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I think, very much for the better. And there could be a number of reasons why.
Yeah.
What do you think has been the biggest shift from when maybe you started to now in 2023?
Yeah. Well, I think there's two ups and downs, or positives and negatives to the shift. I agree that I think my kids are so much less stigmatizing and so much less ignorant, I guess, about things to do with their own mental health and their friends' mental health and so on. So that's fantastic. Yeah. But also we are very medicalising the way we treat, issues to do with mental distress, and I think that's got two sides to it. Sometimes people's solution is not really about treatment and being pressured to, take meds, fall into line as a good patient is not as nearly as important as finding meaning and the things that really lead to people having a full life, regardless of maybe some of the impediments that they face. They can have a really exciting life, so we sometimes we set our bar a bit low about what we're expecting of people now that we're sort of that worries me a little, but I do think it's great that we're not shutting people away in the way that was 40 years ago.
Yeah, I love that. Come here a little bit more. So I appreciate
it.
Slowly,
You're killing it.
That's lovely. If I'm understanding you right, it would be then maybe finding your purpose is more important than just not getting out and living life and creating, right?
Playing it safe or conforming because, maybe out of fear.
Yeah.
There is a lot of fear and anger and, very strong emotions in mental health. And in some ways you've got to actually lean into those, not sort of try and squash them. Yeah. Because that's human existence is messy and big and a bit scary sometimes,
Totally.
So I think that's my feeling about that. But it's easier to say than to do. And I've had a pretty reasonable run myself, so
Sure.
Yeah.
What are some of the things then you do for your mental health?
I mean, working in a way that's important, like for something that matters. I couldn't do a job that's just bring home the bacon. Yeah. So I have to be investing my time. I had cancer 5-6 years ago. Wow. And it's like, I'm on extra time, I'm on overtime. I'm definitely not wasting it. I want to do stuff that matters. Yeah. So that's probably the biggest thing by far. Yeah. And apart from that, little stuff, enjoying the sun, in the moment stuff is really. We are animals.
So-called stopping to smell the roses, whatever that looks like.
Listening to the birds, being a bit more mindful, but not in a sort of like, I don't know, tricky way, just being an organism, just being in the world as a body, all the senses, all that. I think that's good.
Beautiful.
That helps me.
I love that. A few more questions.
Sure.
I won't take too much more of your time because I know you got this conference,
it's all
but
good.
this has been really nice.
It's amazing to me that you've got this podcast. I'm just blown away.
Oh, thank you. 5 years ago, you said you had cancer.
Yeah.
How did your life change in that? Like, what was maybe the biggest change? I'm sure it did. I've never
been in those shoes.
position, but I've definitely had family who have.
Yeah.
For you, how did your life shift?
Well, I had to just accept that was going to be a different year. And I really felt, I really felt God saying, I've got you for this year, but it's a different one. You're going to have a different year. Yeah. You're not going to do the stuff you normally do. You're going to, take a bit of a side road. And I'm like, oh, okay. So accepting limitations or accepting hardship, as that was a big thing for me. But, there's hope for even beyond that. And maybe, it did confront me with my own mortality, and I don't feel like I'm afraid of dying.
Yep.
I didn't want to die then. I really wanted to be around a bit longer for my kids, but I also don't feel like it's something you have to, run away from or put off forever, because you can't.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's okay. It's okay when you die. That's all right. But in the meantime, make it count, do the stuff that really uses your talents. So I suppose it intensified my commitment to some of the things I was already into, and definitely not taken for granted,
Yeah. It's nice that you, I guess, were already doing things, working in mental health when that happened, intensified that love for it, which is good. Was there anything that you started doing that maybe you'd never done before, taken up painting?
I did. I got back to some things. Yeah. My best mate from high school, I told her, your art was so good, why aren't you doing art? And now we do life drawing together.
Wow.
And she does painting as well. She's amazing. But I really enjoy drawing too.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that. I like doing that. I'm going to do it.
How's that? I guessed it. Painting.
Yeah, all right. Yeah. So it's just fast sketching. I can show you some pictures if you like. Yeah. So that's nice. I do like making things. I like cooking and creating stuff. I think maybe because a lot of my work is kind of in your head and talk and a different part of living. It's nice to do that non-talking expressive. Yep. I really enjoy that, and also having something concrete at the end of the day. Oh look, I made that. It makes me feel good. Yeah. So I like doing those things. But family relationships, so important. Putting heaps of yourself into the people that matter. Yeah. Because that's what makes life also really meaningful. Having people that love you and people that you love. How good's that?
Absolutely. Is there any advice you could give if you could go back to maybe your 15-year-old self? If you could go back.
I was a bit of a bitchy teenager. A lot of nasty little snippy things that I could say to put people down and stuff like that. So I became a lot more allowed to be more vulnerable as I got older. But that's hard when you're young. It's not easy to tell young people to do that. I think paying attention to how I'm feeling. I was just keep pushing through. Actually, that's been a theme in my life. Just keep pushing, and then to sort of think, actually, maybe I need to stop sometimes, or I might need to listen if I've got pain or something. Not just push, but there's times to do that. Be just a little bit single-minded, but there's times to say, nah, I have a rest now.
Nice.
Yeah, so I wasn't very much paying attention to those signs in myself. I wasn't listening to myself much as a young person. I was all go.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's been, it's who I am in some ways in my temperament, but I've taken the edge off that, and I suppose it'd be good to encourage myself to be a bit kinder to myself when I was young. That lots of young people don't do that much, eh?
Yeah, based on this conversation, I feel though that in what you've said, maybe your kids have that opportunity now and the next generation does. I guess normally I end with that question of the advice, but it makes me think of, do you think the generation these days have more or less of an opportunity than say that of your generation?
It's different, definitely a different opportunity. I think they are heaps more self-aware at an earlier age, and also they're world aware. And that's quite burdensome for them. They're very aware of what's going on. I was pretty selfish, really, at that age.
You think like media, social media was probably fast forward that?
Social media and just world news exposure, you know, that you just can't, well, you can switch off, but most people don't, you know. And so knowing a lot about what's going on and worrying about it, I think that's part of the legacy for my kids' generation, which is tough. But yeah, I mean, I think young people today are amazing. They're so, so thoughtful and principled and stuff, as well as, having to find their own way. Every generation. Yeah. Tough.
We all do.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I've forgotten your name.
Bridget.
So Bridget, that's right. Rin.
Yeah.
Lovely. This is so much fun.
So where will I find your podcast?
Yeah, it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
Okay. And what's it called?
The Hope Initiative.
The Hope Initiative by Rin.
Yeah, Rin,
Right.
Rin MacDonald. MacDonald's my surname, so yeah,
Good for you, Rin.
from if you're on Instagram, it's on there as well.
Yeah.
I do these little, one-off episodes with strangers in the street. I've only just started doing them, so this will be my 5th one.
Wow.
And my first one today, so thank you, Bridget, for...
You're very welcome. And how did you get into it?
Come up on there?
Ron Hope for some reason. There's some first. But anyway, I'll keep looking. I'll find you.
Oh, Rin is spelled, sorry, R-I-E-N.
Oh,
That
Rin.
tricks people, yeah.
Right.
Dutch name.
Yeah.
But how I got into it was 4.5 years ago. I just started my own podcast. Really wanted to learn from people in that sense.
Yeah.
Yep, there we are.
Like buffet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so nice.
Lovely. Yeah.
Well, that's a gift to the world. Good on you.
Yeah,
I'll
and
share
thank
it
you.
with other people.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
I appreciate it.
Go well.
You have a great day. All the best. Now she's going to cross the road.